The Walt Disney Company had a not so great quarterly earnings just a few days ago. The stock took a dive. It was not good. But is bald man bad the reason for this? Or is there more to it? Is there more nuance, more context? I'm going to explain it up next on OG 55. Welcome aboard to another episode of OG 55. So I want to give you a quick little programming note before I get started. I'm going to be doing a video with Dre and possibly Disney Family Man 23, really breaking down the nitty gritty and all the details of that quarterly earnings that came out last week. Okay, so we're going to do that. So this is just kind of like a teaser for that necessarily. But in this video, though, I want to break down, because there's been a lot of hysterics, a lot of paranoia almost in regards to like what's going on at Disney right now, right? And a lot of the blame, of course, is going in the direction of Bald Man Bad, Bob Chapek. I made a tweet today and it kind of caught a little bit of fire, actually. A lot of people are surprisingly agreeing with my take on this, and I'm very, very shocked. I'm going to read you my tweet and we're going to kind of talk about it because this is very, very important. This is very, very important. Okay. If we're going to have an honest dialogue, an honest debate about the current state of the Walt Disney Company, we have to be honest in how we assess the problem if we're going to come up with a solution, right? We just have to. So I'm going to read the tweet and we're going to talk about it. Here we go. All right. So I said this. I said every major issue right now at the Walt Disney Company stems from decisions Bob Iger made. From the overspending on Fox to streaming, etc., it all started on Bob Iger's watch. I know a lot of fans do not want to admit that because Iger is pretty and super likable, but facts are facts. Now, this is the truth. Look, this is the truth. And I already got a lot of replies in support of this tweet, which that's awesome. I'm actually very surprised by that. I also got a lot of replies saying, oh, OG, you're just defending Chapek. I'm not defending Bob Chapek. This is the thing. Acknowledging that Bob Iger made mistakes is not an automatic defense for Bob Chapek. But we have to also acknowledge the reality of the situation, okay? So what's the reality of the situation? Bob Iger did overspend on Fox. Bob Iger, leading up to his retirement, was known as the acquisition king. He successfully, created did deals with Lucasfilm, Marvel, Pixar, all that prior to Fox. He was the acquisition king. He was hailed in Hollywood and Wall Street for that, right? And rightfully so. Absolutely. All the respect to him for that. Those were very successful. So when he dove into the ring to try to buy Fox, and then Comcast sort of tried to come in to kind of cock block him, and this whole situation occurred like a couple of years ago. Well, Bob Iger had the mindset, and I've said this many times on the channel, but Bob Iger had the mindset of like, okay, well, I'm going to retire soon. He knew he was on his way out. He didn't know when necessarily, but he was on his way out, right? If he's going to retire, he can't go out and retire on an acquisition loss. Especially the fact that he is known as the king of acquisitions. So when he went for Fox and then Comcast came in and made a counter bid and really drove that price up for Fox, well, Iger couldn't have that. He couldn't lose Fox to Comcast right before he retires. No. That would harm Bob Iger's legacy. Bob Iger was going to buy Fox hell or high water, whether he had to spend 70 billion, 80 billion, 300 billion, $1 trillion, doesn't matter. Whatever he needed to do to get that studio to maintain his legacy, he was going to do it. So he overspent $70 billion obtaining this studio. It completely threw the company into major debt. Now, to be fair, they sold off some of the Fox assets, like the sports stuff and all that. So I think at the end of the day, the bill was about 50 billion. Even at 50 billion, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I think Lucasfilm, Star Wars went for like 7 billion. I think Pixar went for like 4 or 5 billion. To give you some context in how ridiculous 70 billion for Fox really is. Okay. So Bob Iger, he overspent on Fox. 70 billion, sold some assets, out the door like 50 billion. Then he went all in on streaming. He followed the trend of streaming. All right. He followed the trend. He went all chips were in on streaming, Disney Plus, head first into that whole thing. Well, now what are we seeing in streaming? We're seeing a pullback. I mean, the whole quarterly earnings that we just got done with a few days ago, the whole drag on the company and on the stock was because of the streaming side of things. The streaming side of things. A lot of these streamers like Netflix, they're having issues. There was an arms race years ago in the streaming world to just kind of like spend whatever you have to spend to get the subscribers, but that's sort of waning now. Wall Street wants to start seeing results. Okay, so we have the $50 billion that, from Fox. We have all in on streaming, billions of dollars on streaming. Okay, then Bob Iger, when we knew he was CEO, he decided, well, let's build another theme park in China. Well, now China's going to hell, right? Like now they're not even showing our movies. Like I don't even think Wakanda Forever is showing over there. They're not showing our movies anymore over there. They're becoming more and more hostile towards us. So Iger, again, one more thing, he set the stage for this issue. He went all in on China, and that is starting to rear its ugly head. Okay, almost every single issue that the Walt Disney Company is faced with today, the major issues. And park fans, I'm sorry if you walked by an overflowing trash can at Epcot, that's not a major issue. I know it's unsightly, but let's be honest, that's not a major issue. The major issues are the debt, okay, the profitability, and all that. And every one of those major issues have started under Bob Iger. He set these things in motion, whether it be China, the debt from the Fox deal, the all in on streaming, every single one of these things, even the park stuff. If you even want to get into the park stuff, let's remember, yes, Bob Chapek ran the parks in 2015, but it was under Bob Iger that all this stuff started to happen at the parks. I mean, Bob Iger was a CEO when they started doing the virtual queues. Remember all that stuff? What Genie Plus was announced at D23 when Bob Iger was the CEO. Okay, when Bob Iger was the CEO. All of these issues, the seeds were planted years ago. Absolutely years ago. And a lot of fans don't want to acknowledge this. And this is why it's so frustrating. I do not hate Bob Iger. I respect the man for the good things he did at the Walt Disney Company. And he did do a lot of good things. But fans need to be intellectually honest with themselves and if you're a content creator, with your audience, and not sugarcoating this as like, well, Bob Iger did everything right and Bald Man Bad just came into the scene and just fucked everything up. That's just not true. It's just not true. It would be like lighting your house on fire and then blaming the fire department that they're not putting out the flames fast enough. Bob Chapek was dealt a shit sandwich. Okay, the debt and all this other garbage that that was hoisted on him. And Bob Iger, right before the lockdowns, right before the pandemic, see you, Bob Chapek. I'm out. I retire. You can deal with it. Yeah, I'll be over here. I'll kind of give you advice if you need it. But I'm done, bro. My legacy will stay intact. You can deal with the pandemic and the lockdowns and all that and the downturn. I will never forgive Bob Iger for that. I'm sorry. I will never forgive him for that. And a lot of what we're seeing today with this quarterly earnings, with the streaming profitability, how much money they poured in the streaming service, now they can't make that money back right away. The situation in China, the situation with Fox, all these major things impacting the company right now started under Bob Iger. And a lot of fans, I've already gotten it on Twitter. Oh, you're just a Chapek lover. You just love Bob Chapek. You're defending Bob Chapek. I'm not defending Bob Chapek, but I'm not going to blame Chapek for not putting out the fire fast enough when the guy over here lit the match. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I get it, fandom. You don't like Chapek's personality, and that's okay. I'm not a huge fan of Chapek's personality either. Do I think Chapek is this brilliant, creative visionary? Absolutely not. I've said it many times, but I'm not going to sit here and pit blame on somebody that doesn't deserve 100% of this blame. I think most of the blame does fall on Bob Iger's lap. Okay. Now, like I said earlier on in this conversation, we will be doing a full breakdown of the quarterly earnings probably in a few days, because there's a lot to discuss here with this. And it's not all doom and gloom. That's the other thing. The media and just content creators in our space, they really, 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 really love to do the whole clickbaity thing. Disney's collapsing. This is the end of the world. It is not the end of the world. Okay. Warner Brothers Discovery is making massive cuts as well. They had similar issues with their quarterly earnings. Comcast, beloved Comcast Universal, had to write off $8 billion for their Sky purchase. Their $30 billion Sky purchase that they got a few years ago. Yeah, they just had to write off in the last quarterly earnings. They announced they had to write off $8 billion. Not all is well over there at Comcast Universal either. The economy, things are just not super rosy right now. And all of these companies are affected. It's not just the fact that Bob Chapek is this bad guy and he's stupid and this, that, and the other. It's not the case. Okay, there's a lot going on externally and just all kinds of stuff. So on this channel, I have made a commitment to my audience that I will always be honest with you, and I will always bring a level-headed approach to this stuff. I'm not going to sit here and react emotionally like a lot of fans do. I'm not doing that. Okay, I'm not doing that. I'm going to sit there and look at stuff. I'm going to make an honest assessment based on what I see. And what I see is a company that, yes, is having problems because the last CEO planted some seeds that are now coming to roost now, basically, that are now showing their head a little bit right now. We have a CEO that's dealing with an economy that's on the downturn with inflation with all that going on. We have a CEO that's got his own issues. Like, I think Chapek does lack the vision from a creative standpoint. I think that's a problem. I think Chapek does have PR problems. Absolutely. Although those are getting better with Christina Shockey, I will admit. But there are a host of issues going on right now, but the company is not collapsing. Okay, do not believe these content creators are telling you that all is terrible at the Walt Disney Company. All is not terrible at the Walt Disney Company. Okay, there are problems, and we will get through these problems. We will absolutely get through these problems. This company is very resilient. This company has been through far, far worse than what we're going through right now. Far, far worse. Believe me. In the early 80s, those were some problems. Okay, Disney was seriously being looked at to be swallowed up by multiple corporations and split up and sold off. It was horrible before Michael Eisner took over. This is nothing like that. Absolutely nothing like that. Disney is a fabulous company. We'll absolutely get through this. There are issues we do have to acknowledge, but it's not all on Chapek, and a lot of it does fall on Bob Iger. But I want to hear from what you guys think. I want to hear what your thoughts on this. Comment down below. Look, this is interesting. This is a fascinating conversation. It's all too easy. It's the low-hanging fruit just to blame Bob Chapek. But really think about it. Like, what's really going on right now at Disney? Think about the decisions made even leading up to when Chapek took over as CEO. What role did Bob Iger play in this? What role did Michael Eisner play in this? Right? I mean, that's even a factor. Comment down below. I would love to hear from you. We will be doing that video on the quarterly earnings very, very soon. Also, I got back from a wonderful trip, Disney cruise trip to Cabo, Mexico. Literally one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. I'm not even kidding you. It was a beautiful experience. I absolutely loved it. We will be doing a whole trip report on that, because there was a lot to dive into with that. We'll be doing that this week as well. I'm back, baby. OG55, Vash Guy, Family Man 23. We're back. We're making content again this week. We're really excited to be back in the saddle, ready to ride. Thank you all so much for watching. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful day.